see coffee we were having a week ago. Hey?
You really did enjoy that.
Yes, I was.
Went through several cups.
Yes, I mean, it
wasn't
seems so quiet now, doesn't it? Here we are, back in the studio, another year to wait for the British Rock and Pop Awards that we were at last week, and there you were on telly, doing the whole thing. See, I was out in the street when it started. You were in there, rehearsing, trying to read the caption things. Hello, and once again, and she, that sort of thing. We're welcome to... And I was out with Peel in the street. We walked up behind everybody, up to the Lyceum. Nobody recognised us, of course. So I said, quick, look, we've got 10 minutes into the boozer for a Swifty, calm the nerves. We professionals, we know how it's done. So I went in there, no, but I mean, I was waiting, just about to go in the boozer there, and suddenly a limo came sweeping up. This is true. This was at about 5:25 to 6, you see. And we thought, I've got plenty of time. Suddenly a limo, zhoosh, come to all the girls go, wow! All rush forward.
A few of them had colds at the time.
Yes, many of them went up. Some of them were screaming, some of them were coughing. But that's the way it is nowadays with this weather, because they've been out there for days in the cold there, and I could see all these sort of moppy things flopping about inside. And I thought, the cleaning ladies have arrived, late, better late than never. Quick, get that dance floor. No! And so all these moppy things, all the girls recognise the mops, and they all rush forward. Woo! Woo! And the bloke standing next to me then just said to his wife, he just turned, because all the kids had left us, I was thinking, the bloke said, "Sparrow Manilow." To his wife. She said, "That's it?" I said, "Oh, yes." And the car shot by, and it was clearly Limahl in the car, because he couldn't stop, couldn't get out. So Limahl went off cruising around the block, which I'm sure he's quite used to, because he's so famous, But there he was, sort of cruised away again, couldn't do anything else. And immediately the guy said, "Oh, yes, that's right." He looked in the limo as it went by and said, "Barry Manilow." I thought this was true. And I thought, let's face it, unless Limahl's had a flip it, or Barry Manilow, I should say, has had a leg and nose job and had a squash badger slammed on top of his head. It is not Barry Manilow, and it wasn't, of course. But we went into the pub and then finally got into the Lyceum when all your professionals had got settled. What an exciting night, eh? Well, I mean, I was very excited for a start, because for the first time in about 6 years of these things, Peel and I were in the light. We were sitting in the light. Suddenly, what's this? You feel like bats or something, because normally Peel and I are always tucked right under the balcony where it comes around, where the television cameras aren't going to peek, where you can see people in the distance, right, just little lamps in the distance, like glowworms. And we have a look, where's our table? And every year we've gone, we know where our table is, because it used to be where Alexis sat, and where Tommy Van sat, and all the guys who do well in the polls, but, aren't exactly the people who are going to really crack it on Radio 1, the people who sit at the front tables, like, Pat Sharp, Adrian Love, Paul Burnett, those sort of guys, who were always sat right down the front. We were so far back. In fact, a couple of years ago, we were so far back, actually, we found we got a table, we were in a Bernie Inn in Wimbledon. It was really nice, Peel had the fish and I had a steak. Well, we didn't see the show, but it was nice. But this year, there we were, down the front. I mean, I was on the edge of the dance floor. Peel was on the other side of the table. I thought, it's amazing. I was ready to stop waving, hello, Mum, kind of thing. Then I realised we were behind the cameras, because that dance floor, as you know only too well, because you were in front of the cameras, it was like a sort of half circle of cameras. It's very interesting to be in this, like being in a proper studio, but... For Peel and I, I'm afraid, once again, even the front turned out to be the back, but that's the way it is. But I thought, well, be interested, meet some new people. There we were on the table, and I had a look, and there were several Daily Mirror executives, or whatever these people are, and their wives, and all sitting there, very pleasant people. We nodded and smiled, and all have a glass of champagne or whatever's going on. And I looked at the plan, and also on the table down the end was George Best and Mary Stavin.
Oh, yes.
Is it Stavin or
I
Stavin?
think so. Stavin, yeah.
She's been Miss World, and
That's
they've got
Sweden.
George Best and her have got a sort of keep fit record on the go. And I was going to ask her whether it was Mary Stavin or Stavin, but unfortunately they decided to keep fit by not joining us for supper. Sort of it's a weight-watching gesture sort of thing. And so all the way through, there were these 2 empty seats at the end. Unless, I hesitate to say, has George gone back to his old ways? Was he under the table? I didn't like to lift the cloth and look, because he might have been lying there. I don't think so for 1 minute, because, he's always boasting about the fact that he's keeping fit. That's the whole point of the record. So there seemed to be no point looking, unless him and Mary were crouching under the table. But then you'd have thought, when they said, like, and now, top, whatever it is, video personality, and that girl stepped forward, whoever she was with you, and talking away, you'd have felt that between your legs, just suddenly... it would have parted, and little heads would come out. Get off. What are they doing? They couldn't have stayed under there without wanting to know whether it was Duran Duran or whoever was collecting Duran Duran's awards for them and so on, But I don't know how you felt about it. I mean, did you... I saw the video last night. I got my missus to video the thing, so I saw it live, but dodging behind the camera, saying, hello, there's Kid. And we kept all clapping, you know. We said, we might be on the telly, you know, we better clap. In case anybody from the BBC sees us, you know, instead of going, moo, get off, sort of thing. So we looked very enthusiastic. But, I mean, you looked a bit sort of nervy about it being live. I don't know. I mean, I genuinely don't know, because I wasn't around your side of the cameras. Is it a cue thing? Does it come up on auto cue? Do you read the lines? Because at the end, I saw a caption come up that said, script by somebody, so somebody had written what was being said, they said so.
Some of it is, but the worst thing about it was having to rush some of the links because of the time, and a lot of people wrote to me complaining that I didn't speak to Boy George long enough. But the problem was that when you do that kind of TV, you wear a deaf aid in your ear, and inside your ear, the director's telling you, get him off, and you're sort of unbuttoning your shirt. Now, you're sort of thinking, well, okay, sorry, Boy George, thank you very much, we got to move on here, you see. So that's a bit difficult, but
well,
of course...
I thought that when I was watching you and George standing there, and Boy George comes running through, whee, I've won again kind of thing, and you got him on, and he grabbed the mic from you, didn't he, and said something like, don't cut me off, I've turned up, you know, and I'm going to say a few words. Immediately, there's no way, I could see you get a message from God kind of thing, you know, like Joan of Arc or something. It's like, your eyes rolled up.
Don't lose that microphone.
Yes, grab the mic and give him a shove, like, whee! And George said, I'd like to say, whoa! So he shot off to the side, which is quite funny. The bit I was interested in some ways, of course, that affects us at Radio 1, particularly the sort of Radio 1 Special Award, the Disc Jockeys Award. See, I felt the other year, people say, oh, don't be so harsh, like about, was it 2-3 years ago, when it was awarded to Lennon. John Lennon gets the award for the biggest contribution to pop in 1980 or whatever it was, you know. Yeah. And I thought, this is stupid. It's not what Lennon stood for before. I mean, he must have known himself. He'd done nothing that year except sit and look out the window. I mean, there's an album came out that nobody wanted to know until he got shot, really. And I thought, I'd have been willing, if you're going to be sensible, I'd have given the award to that Mark Chapman bloke, whoever it was who shot him. Because he simply did affect pop music that year. For once, everybody had to stop saying, will the Beatles get back together again? No! You know, he put a stop to something, you know. I mean, you felt you should have gone around and told Mike Reid, it's not going to happen again. You know, we've got to get into the 80s. But I was dreading, to some degree, you know, what was going to happen here, because I thought, I know Peel had said, I don't know who to vote for. There's nothing quite outstanding. He thought perhaps Morrissey from the Smiths. You know, just because he sort of brought back guitar.
I thought Boy George, actually.
Are you all right? You're just sort of making gasping noises.
I'm not feeling too well.
No, well, you're not looking too well either. But anyway, you know, you couldn't really say, and obviously none of the disc jockeys had really picked on anybody, and I think it was the right thing, being Radio 1, to make the award to Alexis. You know, obviously sort of a late great figure in both in Radio 1 and in the music. And I thought Mike Smith was quite honest, actually, not saying, well, all the disc jockeys voted for him, because it would have been stupid, because Alexis didn't really make any particular contribution during this last year at all. I mean, if he had, perhaps Mike Reid or somebody would have had to say, well, I was going to play Duran Duran, but I'm going to play B.B. King. But obviously he hadn't, you know, it wasn't on. But it was the correct gesture, I think, to say, well, we're having a special award this year. So I was glad that was made quite clear and not as if he'd sort of done something very specific. I wish Alexis had been allowed to do a bit more, perhaps, during the last year. But obviously that wasn't the case, so we don't get B.B. King on The Breakfast Show. Speaking of Kings, Jonathan King. Oh, did you see old Jonathan popping up there in wherever it was, Los Angeles?
St. Louis, yeah.
Where Tracy Ullman. And he actually says, oh, hello, Tracy. He said, the best female singer. He said, I'd love to have won that award. I'd love to win the Best Female Singer Award. And I thought, hang on, Jonathan. Now, I've known him since, about 65. And, Jonathan, I'm sorry if you're listening, there's no way that you're ever going to win the Best Female Singer Award. Not without some very drastic singing lessons, in my opinion, when you ever do that. But you were quite right to point out, when you did the female vocals, you said, well, you mentioned a few names, and you said Elizabeth Fraser, you know, from the Cocteau Twins, and there's somebody who obviously doesn't need any singing lessons at all. So if we can have a change of topic.
What's wrong with that? See, same thing as me. Here, have some medicine. I got a little bit of medicine.
Pour some in the bell.
There we go. Okay.
That's better. I'm cured. Because on Sunday, then the same week as we did the Radio 1 Awards, I went to see Elizabeth Fraser sing. I went to the Victoria Palace, where normally Heidi Hi is on, all that sort of, whatever it is, Maplin camping and all that sort of stuff. And I thought, I've seen them before, but I'll you know, go and see them on the Sunday concert. I never know about her. Do you? I mean, in the sense that, is she a sort of sensitive, naive, artistic person who is rather sort of like a quivering leaf in the spotlight, or is she really in the know? You know, and she's sort of acting this role. You just don't know. I really don't know, and I've met people who know her, and they don't seem to know that well. I've known people like that. Do you know what I mean? People who say, I broke my leg, but I shall carry on. You know what I mean? You think that you're asking for sympathy, in a sense. Pete, wait, don't say anything, because he's probably listening, but, you know, the way Peel does all that sort of, hello, Pumpernickels, my chest isn't too good, but I'll carry on with the show, you know, and you think, oh, get on with it. You know, he's just asking for sympathy, you know, as a sort of insurance against the show going badly in some way. It's an insurance against failure, and I don't know whether she does that. She always seems very vulnerable, and yet sometimes I look at her and I think, you know you're in the spotlight, you're acting vulnerable. I was particularly interested because I'd seen Old Grey Whistle Test on Friday, where I gather there were dramas in the studio.
Oh, yes? Tell us.
Oh, no.
Please.
I can tell no more. No, but it was got a little bit temperamental in the studio kind of thing. There was a little bit of... But it sort of went... Well, I didn't exactly go out all right, because I think, what's the matter with her singing when I saw Old Grey Whistle Test? And I think her doctor, what he would say, in layman's terms, I don't know, but I think he'd have diagnosed it as probably... Microphonius closiensis. I mean, it sounds as if they ain't got the mic open. That's what I thought. I thought, can't hear her at all. Don't know how they lose it. Because her voice is tremendous, isn't it? You know, it's like... I remember when we played a record, not a Cocteau Twins record, you know, the other thing with modern English. You know, what was it called? The single, you know, the single out that she sings on... recently, you know, it's just been re-released.
You mean the This Mortal Coil?
Yes, it's Mortal Coil, you know, which isn't actually just the Cocteau Twins, it's a kind of amalgamated
Song to the
thing.
Siren, yeah.
Sure. And I remember Janice Long saying, Janice said, she said, reminds me of Barbara Dixon. But I know what she meant, it had got like that Celtic folk kind of quality. There's a bit of like piaf in it, you might say, you know, there's almost like what do they call the fellow who sings off the top of the mosque, you know, shouts off the muezzin or whatever it is, you know, in you know, the chap who does that. If you're on holiday in those sort of parts, which probably means, help, I'm stuck on the top of a mosque, fetch a ladder. And we'll take his photograph and think, very nice, thank you. There's that sort of thing, a bit of the blues, you know, and that's the way her voice will break, you know, that sort of da-da, you know, and she'll particularly yodely bits and sort of those pigeony, sort of, how she does it, it's very good. And half the time, what I like about it is I can't understand any of the words at all. But on Sunday, about the third number, which was Sugar Hiccup, you suddenly realise her voice was going. Again, like, she's not the sort of bird who's going to walk to the back and say, cock to the guitarist, voice is going a bit, you know, don't ask for any extras, you know, I'll just do this little bit, then we don't do any encores, you know. Instead of that, I thought, as she started to turn it, and she's still in the spotlight, and she's shouting, I can see her shouting at him, which isn't going to do her voice any good, like, my throat has gone! You know, so the audience will know exactly, you know, and I thought this is going to end in tears. It didn't actually end in tears, at least not as far as I could tell from the front of the stage, but it ended rather abruptly. You know, the lights came up after about 35 minutes, and the fire curtain came down, fire curtain, that's the end of that. You know, and people stood up there going, as they always do, put the bell down. But people always stand up with that sort of, no, no. Now, there's a number of concerts I've been to where I've really wanted to go, less, less. But no, people were going more, and they definitely wanted it. Now, apparently, I left after about 10 minutes of clapping all this mooring and got the train home. Apparently, they did come out and do an extra number. Otherwise, there'd be some geezers there in the middle tonight, in the middle of Heidi High, be standing there now. You know, I just can't believe that they've gone home. But what's going to happen this year is she is going to have a hit, aren't she? I should say they're going to have a hit. They're going to have a single out, I expect, as long as everything goes well for them. And all the fans who listen to your programme, the fans who listen to Peel's programme, they're all going to go out and buy it. Like the Smiths. Doesn't matter about the record business, doesn't matter about the charts. Wallop, they'll get something into the 30, I'm sure of that. And then, of course, one of our colleagues will say, OK, it's the witching hour of 3 minutes past 2, and here's a wee girl from the border that I've just discovered, and they'll play it. The same old story. But let's have a listen now, just because a lot of people who wanted to hear it very well sung, Sugar Hiccup, didn't do so on Sunday night, but it wasn't her fault, it wasn't anybody's fault. This is what it should have sounded like.
The aforementioned Elizabeth Fraser there with the Cocteau Twins. More from John Walters after the news. It's coming up to 9:30. Again with John Walters.
Sighing again? Well, come on, let's perk up. This is my day of action.
Give me that bell. Much better.
There you go, I just did a little gesture towards the day of inaction. I've not done anything there. Right, let's carry on.
The aforementioned Elizabeth Fraser there with the Cocteau Twins. More from John Walters after the news. It's coming up to 9:30. Again with John Walters.
Sighing again? Well, come on, let's perk up. This is my day of action.
Give me that bell. Much better.
There you go, I just did a little gesture towards the day of inaction. I've not done anything there. Right, let's carry on. Satire. I just say this because I saw in the Times last Thursday, Miles Kington, who's a pretty smart guy. I don't really know Miles at all, but he does the Times thing every day. He does a funny column. It's amazing. He turns them out. He does those Franglais books. He plays with Instant Sunshine, who I rather dislike, but I like him. Comes and plays with our jazz group sometimes. But he did a thing. And you know how I hate cars, but he did a thing in the Times. The cars which come with built-in clients, and he'd got some joke car names like a car show, and they were for certain people. Like number one was the Austin Mitchell, Austin Mitchell.
yes.
And then number two was the Newcastle Metro, because they got this underground in Newcastle. And his description is that everyone agrees that it's absolutely wonderful, even if nobody seems quite sure what for. And he says the only good thing about the Newcastle Metro is it only works within 10 miles of the centre of Newcastle. And then he does things like the Nine Men's Morris, a new estate car from Morris. It's ideal for team expeditions for any game involving 9 players. As he points out, this is only like a rowing 8 and the cocks can sort of fit into that. But then he looks at number 4, here I noted down, the David Jensen.
What?
You hadn't seen that either, but it says here, a small zappy sports model, American import, uncomplicated and pleasant.
Canadian.
You sound like Liz Fraser. That's very good. Well, how I hate technology anyway. I'm not a driver and I dislike all that thing. So finally, let's wind up with a look at technology. In the sense, my missus was reading the paper in the week and she said somewhere that all primary schools by the end of the 80s will have to have a computer. What is all this about? Kids can't even add up. Like a friend of mine went to the theatre the other day, Dilly Barlow from Radio 4, the newsreader, and she went up to the theatre and to speed it up, they've got a computer at the desk there. And so she said, I've ordered a couple of tickets for this thing. And they said, just about a couple of tickets, Miss Barlow. And all comes out. She says, there you are, thank you, they're paid for. She said, actually, no, I'm not being honest. I've not paid, It's an arts council thing. I'd better pay. Oh, no, just a minute. No, the computer says it's paid for. She's like, I've not paid for that. And that's how it goes. And I went to the theatre the other day. Same thing. It said, don't worry, it'll speed through. If it speeded you through, so there was a queue going, and you went through. No, you've all got to. What is it? Like students' half-day reversible? Stop it. And then some BBC guys came round, the engineers came round to fit me some new sound equipment. They can't leave it alone. I just felt like saying, there you go, plug it in there. That's right. Where do I get Radio 1, 2, 3, 4? Yeah, I'll come back in a minute, Squire. You see, there's got like a memory bank. You can feed your digits in like... I don't want to know that. Just where... And they said, well, eventually they show me like, here's Radio 1. Hey, Jude, don't let me... There we go. I see, press this, Radio 2. Hey, Jude, don't let... Radio 3. Beethoven. 4... And for more zany fun of the same nature, Instant Sunshine. I said, look, I don't... Is that it, then? So they said, yeah, but you could always reverse your memory in the azimuth by putting... I said, don't want to... They said, no, I'll put on the FM. Radio 1, hey, Jude. Radio 2, hey, Jude. Radio 4 and the King Singers will be... Stop! And eventually I said, where's the off-on? They said, what? I said, the off-on. That's the one they don't want. They said, there on the left. I went, off. They were really ratty, because they want to play. All these techno people, they don't care what's on. They just want to show you how it's done. They want to show it lights up and it's digital and all that sort of thing. And I really hate that. No sooner than that to finish with, I got on the train, and there's a couple of blokes there talking about cars, which I hate. One said, oh, yes, I got the old Morris Marauder, the assisted gears and all that sort of thing. But the wife, she prefers, of course, power... It's a Triumph Sodomite. That used to be her car. Power steering, that is exactly... He said, when we went to Ireland last year... We didn't have to do some miles. And I thought, what did he say? A green and pleasant land like Ireland? Why doesn't he get out and walk or get a pony cart? Nah, we didn't have to do some miles. I can imagine the boat coming down. The thing comes down straight away. Plop. And he's in the sea at the other side. Wow, we didn't have to do some miles. And I thought, where have I heard that? Alexei Sale, of course. What? Hello, John got a new motor. He don't half play. That's the type of person he's going for. So let's hear a little bit of Alexei.
Alexi Sale, winding Walters up tonight. Hello, John. Got a new motor, which is out again. John Walters a little bit later tonight than he normally is on Tuesdays because of our phone-in on smoking, but enjoyable.